Okay, welcome back to McNab Chemistry. Today we're going to have a look at naming organic molecules. Okay, so from parts 1 and 2 in this series of videos, you should be able to recognise and name functional groups and the alkyl groups to which they are attached. Okay, so once we can do that, then the first thing we need to do in the naming process is to identify our longest carbon chain. Okay, so now when naming compounds, the first step is to always identify the longest carbon chain or longest alkyl group. And remember, because of the free rotation of the carbon-carbon single bonds, the longest carbon chain can sometimes appear to go around corners. Okay, so how do we identify the longest carbon chain? Right, a good method then for identifying the longest carbon chain is to put your pen on a molecule and draw a line through as many carbon atoms as you can without having to take the pen off the paper or the pen going back on itself. Okay, so if I look at this molecule here, I put my pen on the paper here on a carbon at one end of the molecule, and I draw a line through as many carbon atoms as I can without taking my pen off the paper or without my pen going back on itself. Okay, so my longest carbon chain there, so the greatest number of carbons I can draw my pen line through without it taking it off or going back on itself is 6. Okay, in this molecule here, how many carbon atoms can I go through without taking my pen off the page? So just simply go around there, go around the corner. I've got free rotation here. Okay, so I can go around the corner. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 is my longest carbon chain there. Okay, right, so now for some more formal rules. Okay, so first of all then, as I've just said, you need to identify your longest carbon chain. You then need to identify your functional group. You then need to identify the position of the functional group. Okay, and remember that carbon number 1 is the carbon attached to the functional group. Okay, if there is more than one of the same functional group, then numbers are used to show the position of the group, and commas are placed between the numbers. Okay, so that's if we've got more than one of the same functional group. Okay, we have to use numbers to say where those functional groups are. Okay, and then next point, if we have two of the same functional group, again we need to have shown the position with the numbers of the group, and then we have to have little words in front of the chloro or the iodo to tell us that we might have two chloros. So if, let's say I had 1,1 dichloro-propane. Okay, so the 1 and the 1 would say that the chlorine was on carbon 1. The dichloro tells somebody that I've actually got 2 chlorines in the molecule. If I had 3 chlorines in the molecule, it would be trichloro. If I had 4 chlorines in the molecule, it would be tetrachloro. Okay. Right, next then, if there is more than one functional group, so now if we've got different functional groups, the functional groups are listed alphabetically. Okay, and then finally point number 7, and we'll look at this in a minute, when you've got two consonants following each other in a name, an E has to be added into the name, and we'll look at that in a minute. Okay, right, let's have a look at these examples here. Okay, this first one, so the first thing I do is I identify my longest carbon chain. So put my pen on, how many carbons can I go through without taking my pen off the paper? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so methyl-pro-bute is butane. Okay, then identify my functional group. Well, I've got a Cl there. Okay, and how many Cls have I got? Well, I've just got 1. Okay, so it's in position 1, so it's 1, position 1. Chloro, because there's 1 of them. Okay, so 1 hyphen, hyphens go between numbers and letters, so 1 chlorobutane. Okay, we keep it simple. It's certainly not 4 chloro, is it? We just 1, okay, not 4. Okay, this next one here, it's actually a position isomer of this molecule here, because all I've done is change the position of the Cl atom. What's my longest carbon chain? Methyl-pro-bute. I can draw a line through there. Okay, but this time the Cl is attached to carbon number 2, so it's 2 hyphen chlorobutane. Has just got one of those, so it's just chloro, like that. Okay, let's have a little look at this one now. Okay, Longest carbon chain 1, 2, 3, methyl prop, put my pen through 3, 1, 2, 3, propane. Okay, my functional group is a Cl, and I've got 3 of them. Right, what positions are the Cls in? I've got 2 in position 1, and then I've got 1 in position 3. So 1, 1, 3. How many chloros? 1, 2, 3. Trichloro. Please don't miss the trichloro part out. It's quite common that people do miss that out. They get the numbering right, but they forget to name this part here, to say there were actually 3 chloros. Okay, next one here, final one, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, methyl prop bute, that's my longest carbon chain. Okay, but then I've got 2 different functional groups. Okay, so first of all I need to decide how they sit alphabetically. Well, C comes before I. Okay, so I'm going to name my chloro first. Which carbon is the chlorine on? It's on number 1. So it's 1-chloro 2 iodo butane, methyl prop butane, 1-chloro 2 iodo butane. There you go. Right, now let's have a look at this adding of the E in a name. Again, this is a very common mistake and something that people miss out frequently. Okay, let's look at this molecule here. I've got 2 OH groups, so we recognise the OH groups, so they're alcohols. When I've got 2 of the same functional group, I'm going to need to call that the diol, because I've got 2 alcohol groups, so the diol. My longest carbon chain, ethane or ethan 1,2 diol. Okay, well, let's just look at the name. So that's we're quite happy that that is ethan 1,2 diol or ethane 1,2 diol. But actually, the writing down of it is absolutely key to getting your marks. Okay, that is not ethan 1,2 diol. To get your mark, you'd have to say it was ethane 1,2 diol. Okay, and this is how you work out whether to put an E in your name or not between the letters and the numbers. Okay, that N is a consonant and that D is a consonant. So if I have 2 consonants next to each other like that, then I need to put an E after the first consonant. So ethane 1,2 diol. So just look out for that in the future. Okay, so an example of that would be glycerol. Those of you who do A-level biology will have come across glycerol. Methyl prop is propane 1,2,3 triol. Okay, an E, propane 1,2,3 triol, because an N can't be followed by a T. We have to put an E in there. Propane 1,2,3 triol. Okay, so really what you need to do now are lots of questions on this topic. The only way of becoming good at naming compounds is to do many questions, and you could visit my website quicklinksforlearning.co.uk where there are many questions on this. Right, so in summary, really simply, when we're naming compounds, what's the process that we go through? So first of all, you identify your longest carbon chain. You then identify your functional groups and you list them alphabetically. You then have to think, well, where are my functional groups? Which carbon are they on? And then number as simply as possible. Okay, and then if you've got a longer name where you've got numbers in the name, you just need to check that you haven't got 2 consonants following each other, like we said here and here. If you have, you need to put an E into that name. Okay, I hope that's been helpful. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe and click on the bell notification to stay fully updated.